time for me to ascend.
From the sewers of Gotham, a new villain emerges.
You didn't invite me, so I crashed!
From the rooftops of Gotham, the perfect enemy comes to life.
I am Catwoman. Hear me roar. Yeah.
And the only one who can save this city is a creature of the night.
Hey, Stud. I thought we had something together.
We do.
While she craves a romance she can sink her claws into,
You're catnip to a girl like me.
he plots a foul reign of destruction.
My dear penguins, thanks to Batman, the time has come to punish all of Gotham!
You missed.
Above Gotham looms its greatest hero.
Hello everyone, welcome back to part
special
3 of this here in the Movie Zone for CKV and for YouTube. You've seen the first one, covered all the 60s stuff, all the early stuff from the Batman franchise. Then I moved on in part 2 and I moved on to the first of the Tim Burton movies, Batman the movie. Great film. Now we're going to move on to Batman Returns. 1992 was the year, and it was the second installment by Tim Burton, by Warner Brothers. They said they tried to get Burton back for Batman Returns after Batman. They said to him, apparently he was in the middle of this, he wanted to make another movie, something different. And he had just finished working on Edward Scissorhands, which was a big project for him, and he really enjoyed doing that, I think. And he was going to he had taken leave, if you will, of the whole Batman thing. They rang him up. They said to him, Tim, we're going to have, I'm not quoting them here, it's just my imagine of what they said to him, because I've heard that they said something to him, but they said, Tim, how about another Batman movie? And he said, well, I don't know, this is taking me by surprise here. Why do you want me to do another? I've done what I've done and I've taken leave of it. What do you want me to do? And they said to him, how about we make a little deal? And he said, what's that deal? He says, Tim Burton says, the only way I'm going to do another Batman film is if you let me do it my way, if you let everything done, if you let me do it in my gothic way of going and stuff. Warner Brothers said, fair enough, we let you do it the Tim Burton way. So that was that really touched on what we were getting at there. That is enough to say things are going to be up in the air, things are going to be totally different in Batman Returns. And what did we get? We got a horror movie, more or less a horror movie, which was a Batman movie. Very much a freak show movie, very controversial, because there's a lot of young fans, a lot of young children big into the Batman thing, and there was a lot of very controversial stuff. The two main villains, of course, the Penguin and Catwoman, played by, respectively, Danny DeVito and Michelle Pfeiffer. Of course, Max Schreck, played by Christopher Walken. cast of characters. As I said many times, it was a cast of characters for Kings and Queens. Definitely. Great cast altogether, with Michael Keaton reprising his role as Batman. He was reluctant to do so, but he decided he would give it a go. Also returning was, of course, Alfred's playing Alfred was Michael Cuff. Returning to play Commissioner Gordon, Paul Ingle. A few very good characters. Billy D. Williams was meant to return. Marlon Wayans, I understand, was supposed to be in the movie, but that never happened either. I think he was paid for the movie, but he never actually was in it. And they had a story. They were going to have a story in the movie that the guy that played Harvey Dent in the first Batman was going to be his Harvey Dent. The storyline was going to go, but they changed it. That Harvey Dent was on business in Metropolis during Batman Returns. So that's really cool. A crossover there between the two DC and Warner Brothers franchises, Superman and Batman, with Metropolis just down the road, supposedly from Gotham City. As we all know, it is mentioned in both. Metropolis is both mentioned in both of Joel Schumacher's tries at the Batman series in Forever and Batman and Robin. But as we know, go back now to talking about Batman Returns. DeVito, Pfeiffer, Keaton, and the gangster character who was, of course, Max Schreck, played by Christopher Walken. Very, very good cast. And that's the front line, if you will, of a great cast. And they really did, in my opinion, this is a better film than the first film. Other people that showed up in this film, there was a few other big names that made appearances in the film, such as, for example, the guy that plays Pee Wee Herman. He was in the film at the start. He was the Joker's father. Another little fact about this particular film, Michelle Pfeiffer originally wasn't going to play Catwoman. Up until the very last minute, Annette Bening was going to play Catwoman, and then she rang up, said she was pregnant, couldn't do the film, and Tim Burton had to resort to getting Michelle Pfeiffer, who turned out to be absolutely amazing as Catwoman, and Selina Kyle. Also, she was, of course, Bruce Wayne and Batman's love interest. Of course, we know that down through history that Catwoman and Batman were close. A lot of stuff, a lot of underlying stuff that people don't realise, just casual fans don't realise, in the Batman story, in the Batman franchise. Very interesting stuff. I really love the whole Batman stuff. Very, very... And as we all know, there is an underlying thing. I didn't allude to it earlier when I talked about Batman, the movie, but the whole thing about his parents' death and stuff, and all it really evokes emotions. Batman, it's not only for kids, it really does. Adults really get involved in the movie. I often find, I've mentioned before, when I was doing other forms of media and radio and stuff, and I was doing the movie shows and the radio, I was doing the different things. I mentioned about Batman, about my... I love Batman, the different characters, the colour, the great villains. The Rogue Gallery is the best in the world. Great stuff. And I think you can identify with the whole Bruce Wayne Batman story. It really, I think it's great. But not to talk about that too much now. I'm talking about... It really was a freak show. It was like a circus. All the sideshow characters and the Jokers, and the Penguins. The Penguins group of Penguins gang, so to speak. All these characters were very good. A lot of big names thrown in there, and people who would become big names. You will notice if you look back at the film now that there are a lot of people who made it bigger that were in his gang. Great stuff. Batman Returns, one of my easily in my top 10 films, my top 10 favourite films of all time. Definitely it is in there because of its unique approach. Tim Burton, brilliant, always excellent, and his uniqueness. And I will go on and talk now about what could have been. Batman 3 was all set to be made a couple of years after this, 1995, 3 years after this. They were going to make a film called Batman 3. And that film would have been called, it was entitled Tim Burton's Batman 3. And that would have been very good. Burton didn't want to come on board and do it, and they end up. Michael Keaton didn't want to come on board and do it, and they end up. And then it was the reins changed and went over to Joel Schumacher to actually direct, and they ended up changing it and calling it Batman Forever and changing up the cast. But I'm going to talk about that in my next installment of this series. But right now I'm going to talk about Batman 3. And the Batman 3 concept was Batman would return. It was going to be Michael Keaton returning as Batman. It was going to be Catwoman coming back, and of course Selina Kyle and Catwoman was going to be played by Michelle Pfeiffer once again. As you might recall, if you might have heard about this before, Robin Williams was going to come in and play the Riddler in this particular idea. That would have been very good. I talked about before my preview of The Dark Knight Rises. Robin Williams was supposed to be. There was a lot of rumours earlier in the year that Robin Williams was supposed to be coming in to play Hugo Strange in The Dark Knight Rises, but that never happened. You could argue maybe the whole Robin Williams thing was just like a reprise of the whole idea of him coming to play the Riddler in this particular film, which was to be in 1995. The storyline of the film, I understand, would have been Catwoman was going to come back, and then there was going to be like two storylines kind of going from. They were going to just have it kind of like Batman Returns, but it would be the Riddler, Catwoman, and Batman instead of the Penguin, Catwoman, Batman. It was going to be a similar concept. It was going to be more, of course, would have been all gothic like Batman Returns probably if Tim Burton was going to get his way, but something happened then. Burton decided to not do it. Keaton decided to not do it. Pfeiffer decided to take a hike as well, and they decided to go with, and Robin Williams as well also did. They decided to go with Batman Forever. And it would have been a great concept. I thought it sounded like a great idea, Batman 3, and who knows why they never done that one, but well, they went with Batman Forever, Joel Schumacher, which also turned out to be an okay film. I'll talk about that in my next episode. For now, everyone, hope you're enjoying the history of Batman here on CKTV, and we'll have a few clips now coming up, but Yoster over and out.
Selina, we're the same. Split right down the center. On the second one, there was always the desire to kind of do something else, but still keeping the spirit of Batman. I mean, we wouldn't want to change it to where all of a sudden it was a completely different thing. But, you know, you're working with other writers, designers, actors, artists. You're not, myself included, don't want to just do the same thing. So everything was slightly redesigned or completely redesigned or rethought, but it's always trying to keep within some idea of the Batman that we first made.
Tim and I had talked about it. We figured we had this pretty well wired, you know, what I did, what I didn't do, what I needed to do, what I absolutely didn't need to do, what was better for me not to do. And we thought, well, this will actually be easy. This will be one of those where you just show up, you know, turn around, look into camera, and kind of spray a little sweat on your face like you just beat up 5 guys and go home. It turned out it wasn't like that at all.
It did have a darkness and a complexity and a resonance that I think the audience at the time, a lot of people didn't expect. You know, it wasn't just kind of a fun, cool comic book movie. It was something more than that.
You didn't invite me, so I crashed!
Tim and I had several kind of loose conversations about where the movie would go with input from the studio. They really wanted the Penguin because they sort of saw the Penguin as the number 2 Batman villain. We wanted to do Catwoman, so we wound up doing Penguin and Catwoman. And I did 2 drafts. It was a deal where the studio was now at the point where they wanted to proceed with the movie. And they said, Tim, come on, you got to do it. You going to do it or not going to do it? And Tim was very averse at the end of the day to the idea of coming in and doing a sequel because he thought he'd kind of, you know, look, I've shot my wad on Batman. I've said what I have to say about Batman. I don't really know if I want to do this. And he was very reluctant to get involved. And finally, the way that they kind of got to him was to say, well, what if the second movie is really just a Tim Burton movie? And that kind of got his attention and got him thinking about what he could do with it again. You know, how extreme could you go with the Penguin? How extreme could you go with Catwoman? What if you didn't have to worry about, you know, sort of the fidelity to the mythology, all of that kind of stuff like that?
I wouldn't have done it right after the first one because that was like the last thing you'd want to do was go right into another one of those. So I did Edward Scissorhands after Batman, which was nice, sort of different kind of experience, which was great. But then I was still intrigued by the other characters, you know, like Catwoman, you know, came to mind right away because that's next to the Joker. That was probably my favorite second villain in the piece. And then that got us to thinking about, well, the Penguin. You know, you could find the psychological profile of Batman, Catwoman, Joker, but the Penguin was just this guy with a cigarette, and a top hat, you know, and didn't really, what is he? So, but then started thinking about, you know, Catwoman, Batman, sort of this animal people, and Penguin, and started to think about him, tried to find a profile for him, and so it was fun to kind of come up with the sort of bad freak, you know, but again, that duality of somebody who's been sort of wronged and you know, has that sort of split, not like dark but sort of human animal, you know, and sort of using the animal motif as a strong image for the film. And then I started to get excited about it.
Mark. Okay. And action!
We really wanted Michael Keaton to be Batman and Bruce Wayne again. I mean, you know, it's always hard, I think, for an actor to commit to playing the same character over and over again. They have to feel confident that they have something more to bring, you know, to the character. And, you know, Michael definitely struggled with that and questioned it, which I think was good. You know, it pushed us to really make sure that the character, you know, reached the level of the first movie.
I think Michael was game for it. I think he was probably game for it the same reason I was, which is, you know, he'd done the character and got to kind of revisit it with other actors and other people, other situations. So, you know, I think that was probably the lure for him. I don't think it was the joy of climbing back into the suit, you know, but I think it was for those reasons probably.
The only challenge I thought of before I started was the mere fact that I had never done a character twice. So I was interested in doing that. What I hadn't anticipated was I was into my second or third day, I realized something seemed a little off, and what I think I was doing was imitating myself. You're playing the same character, so I had to keep thinking, well, I play this character, so what does he do here? And I excluded any other possibilities. So once I found myself saying, okay, this seems like what he would do here, but it doesn't sound right and it doesn't feel very right. So I found myself kind of doing an impersonation of myself, which was, first of all, impossible, and second of all, really strange. And so I just dropped that and said, no, you gotta just open up like it's the first time and just trust that, you know, the character will be there, I guess.
He stays in character all the time, and it's really creepy.
I
Really got to eat a lot of raw fish. It was great. I always liked sushi, but this was really spectacular. Raw and cold and just fresh. Tasty. They were really good. God, my mouth is watering. What time is it?
I mean, if somebody put their fingers too close to his mouth, he might just take it off.
Electroshock therapy. What a bargain.
We initially had...
When Michelle Pfeiffer expressed an interest, something just clicked where we thought, you know, she's perfect. She also could be both Selina Kyle and Catwoman.
I met with Tim, and I found him very unusual and interesting, and he explained the part to me. And I thought it would be a couple of scenes and probably, you know, not a fully developed character. Then, to my surprise, I read the script, and I found she was just very, actually more complicated than I could have even imagined, just sort of psychologically. And even now, people say to me, now, is she a bad guy or is she a good guy? And the reason that is because the character always was kind of going from one side to the other. And I think that she was always good at heart, but was always running astray.
Well, I tried to lick her, but they didn't put that in. The Penguin is very interested in getting close to that pussycat.
The movie was very much shot out of sequence. So it was a challenge to know where I was half the time. And also, it's real ensemble, so every scene, every moment counts. You don't have a whole movie to develop a whole character, so it was actually one of the most challenging roles I've done.
I wanted to talk to her about it before we started, because I kind of wanted to warn her about what she was in for, but I didn't, and I could only offer sympathy, really, you know, and because there's no suggestion. You can't say, well, you know, here's the way I deal with this kind of a picture.
She was very impressive. I mean, two things that impressed me extremely was when the cats were kind of bringing her back to life for sort of eye flutter and her eyes opening up. I still find that really chilling and amazing. And then that moment where, you know, she put a live bird in her mouth and held it there for several seconds and then let it fly out. I mean, I don't know too many people that would do that. She did it several times, and no bird or person was injured.
The movie itself, apart from, you know, being a merchandising machine, you know, apart from all the toy sales that it's supposed to generate, the movie itself was never presented as, you know, a child-friendly movie. And so I just think it's a mistake of perception. I think, you know, the parents who complained just got it wrong. But there was no attempt to deceive anyone.
I really dig the fact that even now I can, you know, kids come up to me and if they don't know that I played the Penguin, once they do, you know, they're really, you know, charmed by it and taken by it. So you get into that kind of milieu of it all, and you say, yeah, it's great to be part of it. I'm really happy to be part of the Batman family.
I remember toying with the idea of doing another one, and I remember going into Warner Brothers and having a meeting. I'm going, you know, you could do this, we could do that, and they go like, Tim, don't you want to do like a smaller movie now, you know, just something that's more, and like about, you know, half hour into the meeting, I go, you don't want me to make another one, do you? And they go, no. And I just said, no, I know you did. And so we just stopped it right there.
You know, when you're a director like Tim and you have so many stories to tell and you're so visionary, I mean, can you do the same character over and over again? I think we all knew that, you know, Tim had other places to go and other films to make. Would have been great for the audience because he would have made a lot of great Batman movies. But we wouldn't have had, you know, all these great films that he's made since then.
Gotta fly!